Max Holloway by decision. That's about as classic as a result as you can get. But I've got to say, not a vintage performance from Max Holloway, a new performance from Max Holloway. Working way on the outside, long-range kicking game to the body and to the legs.
It was
new wrinkles
in this old dog. But is he so old? He's 31, and that's what he wanted to show here, Joe. He was sick of all this veteran talk, future Hall of Famer, vintage. Can he roll back the years? Your man's 31 years old, Joe, and he is looking just as good as ever, still evolving. Now, Joe, what do you do if you take a beat down like he himself took against Volkanovski? You go back to the drawing board, you look, and you think about how you can implement new elements. And it certainly was a different Holloway. Very, very calculating, controlled performance on the outside, as you say. And those kicks, Joe, Arnold Allen, at no point in this fight, had any answer to them.
No, I was surprised actually as well, because I thought Max would be wanting to fight in boxing range a lot more, and I actually found that when they did go into boxing range and they were having close, tight exchanges, I would say it was about 50-50 at points in terms of who came off better in some of them, but I thought more Holloway landing more from at range, so it was more that like he'd have like this really long extended jab that would sort of as Allen was sort of moving laterally. So like Allen would normally have lateral moves to escape, and Holloway would land really lovely jabs from that sort of range, and then the kicking as well, to then reduce that lateral movement to keep Allen into a closer, tighter boxing range. Allen's success in this fight did come from when he actually blitzed. He would blitz occasionally, and it was just like he would land on Holloway, he would land big left hands, and it was going well for him. It's just he did it so infrequently. It was so infrequent from Arnold Allen. And then it's like you just let rounds slip away, and you can't go into a fifth round against Max Holloway being a round down. Like, if you need to finish him, you ain't going to finish him.
No, certainly not. As highlighted by the commentary team, the man has taken 1,500 significant strikes in his UFC career. None of them have dropped him, Joe. And he was not close to being dropped here. I didn't actually feel that Allen was really landing all that much. Like, you take the big moments for Allen, which came from that left overhand, which I got to say, that is a cannon, Joe. That's a huge weapon. It's so fast. It's so powerful. But Max was able to roll with it most of the time. So the actual impact, it was more like the wrist, and Max was already turning away for the most part. Allen was landing, but he wasn't landing flush.
He was landing flush, but maybe not as much as he could have. Like, this was the annoying thing about it from Allen's perspective, is that, like, he had moments where it was just like he could have won more rounds, but he just didn't implement it soon enough, or he didn't adjust to Max's game plan of the long-range kicking. And then you remember that really, how many guys has Arnold Allen fought who has that sort of like kicking game? Do you know what I mean? Like, how many guys has he fought that actually implement that style? And the fact that Max Holloway broke that out, it was a really interesting wrinkle that he added. I'm actually surprised we didn't see any wrestling from Holloway as well, because there was practically no clinching in this fight either, which I thought could be an area where Allen could get some success. It just was never available to him.
No, well, when Allen did wrap up some clinches, Max shucked him off pretty quickly. I didn't think Allen looked.
I think the first clinch exchange was in the fourth.
Yeah,
like, just goes to show that like what range and pace this fight was fought at.
Yeah, I guess. We did come away with slightly different takes when we're looking at it, in that you felt that Allen had great success when they were trading, trading not at range, but kind of in the pocket, as you say. That wasn't my take. I thought Max also bested Allen there for the most part, whereas you had it 50-50. It's probably be more like 70-30 for me. What was vintage about Max here was his measurement of the distance and his timing, which are truly just incredible. He's such a smart fighter. He's able to stand right there in danger and I'm missing the word.
He's almost like looking down the barrel of the gun, and it's just not phasing him at all.
He can see the bullet coming, Joe. He can see that bullet coming, and he knows when he can like get something down there to stop that shot coming. He can just pick that little jab, and we're talking about weapons that Allen struggled with. Max Holloway's jab in this fight, absolutely non-stop in Allen's face the whole fight. Straight down the middle, in between Allen's shots, really breaking his rhythm, just off. We talk about Volkanovski often, his kind of offbeat timing
Yeah.
when he lands his shots. Holloway was breaking up Allen all the time with these quick jabs and then stepping out the way when Allen would try to fire back. Not only that, but he would also blitz down the center off the back of his jab. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, really, really impressive. It's and also it was interesting as well to see Max like not throw at such a high output as well. That like he was using his pace and tempo just to keep a steady rhythm throughout the fight instead of like slow build up and then escalate it further and further and further. It was like, I'm just going to strike within this amount of strikes per round in this range, and then that's it. Like I'm not gonna like it was like I'd rather be at this consistent tempo. You know, it was that was I thought was quite interesting because at no point did he ever escalate. Maybe he felt like he didn't want to get into that sort of exchange with Arnold Allen. Maybe that Volkanovski fight has maybe taught him a different way of like approaching fights. You know, if he is going to beat someone like Volkanovski, is it like slowing the pace of the fight down, like making it literally, you know, a strike for strike, you know, low output affair, you know, in the way that Makhachev did.
Well, you're not going to like it, Joe, but my take on that is a little bit different. I sense it's going to upset you.
Yeah.
I just think Holloway had Allen's measure from the starting bell. I thought he had extra gears to go to, but he never felt any need to go there. I really just felt like he coasted. At no point was he in any danger. He was very comfortable. He looked at Allen, he saw what he had, and he just comfortably beat him. Didn't need to find anything more. Didn't need to switch anything up.
I think in rounds 3 and 4, that's when I was like most impressed by Max.
Yeah, same.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that he did step it up there, you know, and I think that that's what he did. Like, even if we go on like a numeric standpoint, he did step up in those rounds. Like, if I'm remembering that correctly, like,
well, I'll give you.
Yeah, that was.
Let me just give you some round by round stats. Round 1, it's 27 significant strikes counted for Holloway versus Allen's 11. I don't think anyone would ever be considering that a potential Allen round.
No.
I think when we thought about how the fight might unfold, that first round was kind of what we were looking at.
Yeah.
The second round, Max outlanded him 25-19.
Not enough of that to be a significant round winner for me. Again, though, I still gave it to Allen on that just for the quality of strikes that he landed in that round.
Yeah, I mean, there was the big impact. There was the big overhand left, and I think he did have a right hand too. But again, that's just two small moments in a sea of Max Holloway controlling the fight.
But this is the problem, though, isn't this, with the scoring criteria? And we can go into this with like when it comes to like grappling exchanges as well, is that we just score it on damage, you know. And it's like...
I also gave that round to Holloway on damage.
Okay, fair enough. Rounds 3 and 4, I don't think there's any debate, and we can also see that in the numbers. 33-14 for Holloway, 29-12 for Holloway.
Comprehensive.
Round 5 is the interesting one, because why did you give that one to Arnold Allen?
I guess like he was pressing the action and he was coming in on those blitzes. To give it to Allen, though, I do have to overlook one thing, and that is it hasn't been scored for Holloway, but when they kind of let it all hang out, Holloway versus Ricardo Lamas style in the last 10 seconds. I mean, Holloway did drop him. That did happen. Yeah,
I get that, but I can't ignore the previous 4 minutes and 58 seconds of a round.
Which,
do you know what I mean?
Did you see that as did you score that to Allen with the same strength that you did round 3 and 4 for Holloway?
Maybe not quite, but I was
more than round 1 for Holloway.
Yeah, I was more in line with like thinking that Allen should... my main frustration with that round was that I think that Allen should have just fought the whole fight like that in a way. Like, and I think he could have done it. You know, it seemed... I don't know, but yeah, I gave it to him based off of the work and the pressure and the damage that he inflicted in that round. I think he had control of that round as well, compared to the way that Max had control of rounds 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Not to the same degree, but I mean, like, in terms of the narrative of that round.
Just when I thought we were getting a consensus. Yeah, the narrative, okay.
Sorry.
That's a terminology I can sign up to.
If you think about, like, you know, if you think about the story of the fight, compared to the actual fight,
right.
Yeah, it fits within that story. So
I'm happy to go with that, Joe. I mean, going into that fifth, Allen knew he was down. Allen's corner for Asad Zahabi. He let him know he needed a finish. And Allen's response was, okay, right, Dan Hooker, round 5, 1-1-3. I.e., he's going to go out there, he's going to land a double jab, and he's going to come with a big left. And blitz in, unleash those hooks. And that's exactly what we saw in the first minute. Had Max on his bike a bit. But, the rest of the round didn't really play out like that. It was an Allen round.
Yeah. It was. Do you know what it was? Was that Allen won that first minute. Holloway was just like, no, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep throwing these long-range kicks. And then the last 30 seconds, they kind of like, all right, let's just sit down and throw some punches and see what happens. And then Holloway dropped him with like 1 second to go. And I was just like, man, like, would it have been better if Allen had just continued to just charge in like that? And even if he got finished, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. Like, Well, it sounds like we're naturally coming on to what this means for both fighters. I mean, it means nothing for Holloway, in a way.
You know what, Joe? I think it means nothing for Allen. Now,
and that as well, yes.
Let me try to kind of articulate why I feel like that and see if we're on the same page there. I mean, a win would have been huge.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely huge. That would be, oh my God, we've got another one from the UK, and he's here, and he's ready right now. For me, because that's the esteem that I hold Holloway in, and you can see why I hold Holloway in that esteem after this performance. But a loss, for me, it just confirms where I see Arnold Allen, and that's a man who's still developing. He's in the top 5, and he's got years to go. He's got improvements that he can make, and that I'm not going to say that he belongs at the very top tier, but that he could.
Yeah, Yeah, it's kind of the same position where I thought of like Yair Rodriguez after he fought Max, where it's just like he lost that fight and then one fight later he's fighting for the interim title. I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. And it's like I honestly think that like Max is one of these weird cases where like you can lose to him and still be like well within the top 5, well within title contention. Look at Brian Ortega, gets absolute one of the all-time great beatings. To be honest, in a way, I think worse than the Calvin Kattar beating that Max handed out. Like, I think it was, Max styled on Kattar. Max destroyed Ortega. Like, it was, the fight got finished. But then Ortega beat Zombie, and then he goes into a title fight. So,
I think we probably, I haven't confirmed this with you, but the Kattar fight, it could have been stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The corner should have stopped it.
Was it necessary for Kattar to take an extra 200 strikes or whatever?
Yeah.
Just reiterating, 750 strikes landed for Max. In a career where he is the distance leader for significant strikes landed, even more so after last night.
Can I...
Some 3,000 strikes, Joe, in Max's long career. 750 of them against Calvin Kattar.
That's just a madness. That's an absolute madness.
It's a madness.
Now let's talk about the future. Max has called for Korean Zombie in Australia later this year, which is, I think, you know what, man? Like, if Zombie's going to go out and he's going to go out on another historic beating, then so be it. I love the Zombie, and if his last 2 fights are Volkanovski and Holloway, like he was still, I guess, somewhat competing against these guys. I mean, Zombie has no chance against Max Holloway. I think his style just does not line up at all for Max Holloway. Personally, Tom, I'll reveal who I think Max Holloway should face next. And it was the winner of the co-main event, Edson Barbosa.
Well, we have to talk about that fight before we match make, and we're going to come on to it.
Arnold Allen, what do you think?
I think Allen, he's just right there. He fights other top contenders. Joe, this is what I was trying to say in the preview. He hasn't actually established himself yet with the top guys. He hasn't fought. Let me just give you a roll call of the current top 5. We've got Yair Rodriguez. We know he's going to fight Volkanovski when the belt becomes available. Brian Ortega.
Yeah, that's the fight, really, isn't it? Allen versus Ortega.
Given that Josh Emmett at rank 5, he's already been matched up
with Ilia Topuria for a main event in Jacksonville in June.
Soon to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
And those are the guys. Calvin Kattar, unfortunately, with the knee injury against Allen last time out, that's a fight that could happen in the future. Kattar probably takes one more and then he's ready for it. And then after that, Joe, it's whether Topuria and Evloev, are they coming or not? Outside of that, I don't really see anybody emerging in the division.